A Build Hatch developed production.
Hello, I'm Aaron Kyle and welcome to another episode of Build Hatch. On this week's episode of Build Hatch, I got to sit down with Armin, who owns and operates StitchKraft safety boots and workwear. If you haven't already heard of StitchKraft's amazing range of comfortable workwear and safety boots, it's only a matter of time before you do. And I really encourage you all to check out their amazing range. Like all around the world at the moment, there's an increasingly difficult task in sourcing good quality products at reasonable prices from independent brands. And Armin and his team behind StitchKraft, these guys have jumped on board and are listing their products on buildhatch.com, and you'll be able to browse and buy a pair of their German-engineered comfortable work boots. Armin lives in Melbourne with his family and has a German background. Like all our guests on the show, I was intrigued to hear how Armin took the plunge and decided to create an independent construction and workwear brand in our building industry. And he got to grow it successfully. And guess what? There are no secrets. Just good old hard work, loyal word-of-mouth marketing, and standing behind a great product. This one's a beauty, so let's get into it. Armin from StitchKraft, welcome to Build Hatch.
Aaron, pleased to meet you.
Now, look, this is really interesting. I always like giving different perspectives, and I'm always loving to find out about a guest's history and things like that. So, like all our guests on Build Hatch, we always like to take it back to the beginning and picking up on a very, very slight accent there. So, whereabouts did you grow up?
I grew up in Germany, countryside, village probably with, say, 490, maybe 500 inhabitants now. So, yeah, countryside or country boy in Bavaria. Yeah, that's the accent, where the accent's from.
What ended up bringing you to Melbourne?
Oh, in the first place, I think like a lot of people, a backpack.
Met someone, yeah.
And then, yeah, you fast forward 10 years, it's a wife, kids, and a mortgage. So that's the, let's call it a typical migrant story. Yeah, that's what brought me into Australia. And yeah, not looking back. I love the place. I love the people. I love how people approach things. It's really about not thinking what could go wrong. It's really about giving it a shot. You see something, you can do something, and yeah.
So what do you think stops you thinking like that in other parts of the world? I mean, I don't mean the extreme where you might be in a third world country and you don't have access to
Yeah.
basics, so you don't even think about these things. You're just thinking one step in front of you. But why? What's the difference between living there in that environment and stopping you from thinking, you know what? I come from Germany. I have some good connections. There's a bit of a gap there in the market. I can go out and do this. Like, what stops people in other parts of the world from doing that compared to here in Melbourne?
That's a very good question, Aaron. And I can just speak for myself, obviously, also for the environment where I grew up. Sort of, look, a village of 400 people is probably not a very worldly place. It's a place where, and also the time when we grew up, you were getting told, do this, you had to do that, you had to be home before 6. So it was really a bit of a structure. And I don't want to be too stereotypical about Germany, but looking back also in school, it was always about rather, what have you done wrong? Like, you could write an essay with, let's say, 100 words, and there was one wrong word, and people were picking on you because there's this one mistake you've made. It could have been perfect. No one's talking about the 99% that actually went quite well. And I felt this is not the mindset you have in Australia. People consider that things can go wrong, but they just don't get hung up with them. They're just not getting dragged down so much. They just keep moving on and say, okay, it didn't work out, but never mind, let's just keep going. And I felt I can't speak for other countries in Europe, but again, in Germany, that's definitely a mindset. You always work on perfection, and as soon as things are not 100%, that is already a major disaster, right? And
So that starts at a young age, does it?
yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so. Also, when I went back doing my apprenticeship, and that was what is the translation for it? I think a print run operator. So yeah, printing sheet or operating sheet fed presses. It's really, avoid the slightest mistake, and that's what you drilled on. So what happens to a young person that is 15 or 16 and you're getting told, hey, just watch out that you're not making a mistake. So obviously you're not taking risks. You don't want to take risks. You don't want to, put your creative mind out and say, hey guys, what do you think about, doing things slightly differently? And all these things combined is probably, yeah, I'd say a major advantage also of the Aussie nature of just working things out. When you're looking at the approach and things look quite desperately, you say, well, let's try and work it out, and not just trying to say, hey, let's take one step back and make the problem bigger than it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Look, it's so true, and I think that's that entrepreneurial spirit and the Aussie mentality of having a go,
Yeah.
and yeah, take us back all the way to the beginning, Armin.
Yeah, the beginning of StitchKraft. Look, my then mate and now mate slash business partner, we yeah, had a project together, and we were not in uh, PPE or not in safety shoes. Yeah, we needed to get some safety shoes, and we walked in a don't want to mention the brand or the name of the shop, which probably doesn't matter because they all look the same to me. And here we are. We went in there and we saw like look some solid boots, right? Solid leather work boots. And we were just saying, well, like, is that it? What about the forklift driver? What about, the Australia Post sort of employee that's on the feet 10 hours a day and probably walking for 15 kilometers? Are they all walking around in those sort of boots? And that's sort of where it started. And then a few chats, in the pub. Fast forward, that's where we are now. Yeah, we thought we sourced the right company, the right supplier, and that's one of our
So
pillars, I
you were
guess.
working in construction, were you?
Yeah, I had an engineering business beforehand, and StitchKraft was actually only a side business. It was based on the Australian approach. Just let's give it a go. Let's give it a crack. And then, yeah, just out of yeah, I'd say the velocity generated over time. That's where we're here now, full time employed, and yeah, just trying to keep the chaos at bay, selling shoes, safety shoes, and work boots. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, you raise a valid point. I mean, I'm just trying to think probably as early as maybe even 5 years ago, maybe 10, but definitely no later than that. I think you were fairly limited in what style of shoes and work boots like you said, if you're a landscaper, you had to wear what everyone else was wearing in, call them Blundstones or
Yeah,
whatever type of boots they were. It was either lace up boots or the Blundstone style of boot, and that was it.
that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, and we just were. I wouldn't use the word happy. We just had all these questions, and obviously we weren't like working constructions. I've done an apprenticeship, but not as a builder, not as a chippy or a sparky. So what we've done then at the time, I think we went to trade school Wednesday morning, took a few of these fancy Elton boots and thought, hey guys, what do you think about that? And I also remember, but ending up in the Bunnings sort of trade section, asking tradies, what do you think about those boots? And the feedback we got. I mean, it was a bit salesy, but and everyone wants to get you off their back. But at the end of the day, the feedback we got is like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, they're super light, or whatever that person at the time sort of came up with. But that sort of kept the momentum or our sort of energy going. Say, hey, we're on the right track probably, and then yeah, before you know it, again, that's where we are at the moment. And then look, we are still, let's say, in learning mode. We learn every day about clients that come in with issues or requests, and even we can't probably help them out. We say, hey, you better see a podiatrist, if someone really has health issues. That's just an example. But yeah, from those early days, the momentum and the feedback, we just thought, hey, this is worthwhile exploring. And hey, with the brand, with Elton, yes, they're from Germany, but that wasn't really the main requirement. It was quality, and I probably guess the Germans have still a reputation of putting quality stuff together. But it was the other aspect really was to find the right people behind that brand, and with the same, and that's probably also to answer that the nature of your question is some sort of a heritage, something with a connection to where they were, what they were doing, and really also telling that story, just passing on with the product. Hey, it's a family-owned company. They're 110 years there, fourth generation, and all they're passionate about is making boots. And that sort of was sort of doing the tick all the boxes, and that's how I wouldn't say we felt in love, but it was really that the whole package of the company and the people that do what they do there, and that's where we are today.
All right. So you and a mate, you were thinking about StitchKraft. Was it always StitchKraft from the get go?
No, I think it needed a few beers in the pub for us to come up with a name that sort of was or represents in a very short name of what we're trying to get across, and it obviously insinuates as well there's a bit of stitching, and that's not just the stitching on shoes or boots. It's also what we have in mind to get some quality workwear out as well. It's pants or hoodies, and that sort of um, apparel that might come at a later stage, but it's really about the whole PPE range that someone requires going to work in the morning. But also on the other hand, we didn't see ourselves as uh, we are a jack of all trades, that you say, well, from safety glasses to safety boots to the whole bandwidth. We didn't want, and I think it's impossible if you say you're looking at the core, let's call them the core values of, things have to be sustainable way. You want to know where stuff's coming from, who made it actually, right? And not just brand name. It's really about where's the leather getting tanned. Leather can be or tanning leather can be a very dirty business. Is that some sort of shop that gets all the water unrecycled into the next creek, or is that all looked after? And these are the questions that are getting more important, for the millennials, not just for the millennials, for all of us, I guess, that sort of have an interest in looking after this planet, probably a little bit more than what we've done 10 years ago. And I include myself as well, right? That I probably look at the world in a different way than I've done it 5 years or 10 years ago, just from an environmental sort of aspect or point of view. And with a few of these sort of requirements, again, where's your stuff coming from? Um, yeah, what sort of environment in terms of who are these people who manufacture it? What's their story? And then with those sort of let's call them main pillars, I think it's also impossible to say we throw everything in the mix, all the products, right? So we all know about business. Once you actually have established as a sales channel, right? It's easy to just keep adding on stuff, adding on stuff, adding on stuff, and whether you manufacture overseas or here, I'm just referring to the manufacturing costs that people want to obviously be profitable, but that's not in for us. So we really want to, and this is the plan, and we all know plans can change, but this is really our manifest. That's our core, where we say we don't want to steer off that. We really want to look at the quality side of things, and then also the relationships of who's actually manufacturing or who's producing that sort of stuff, right? That's the important part for us.
So I guess breaking it down, your boots, are they produced in Germany?
Yeah, they're made in Udem, small place, probably 10 k's of the Dutch border. Also a village with 5,000 people, and probably 10% of the village are working in that company, probably already over generations. And they have, like, in a lot of different areas. I always consider Germany as a bunch of tribes. They're a special tribe up there, and it's all about the consistency, I think, for them, the longevity of not just thinking about the quarter or this financial year. It's about what about the next generation. It's I think the Van Elten company is running that since now the fourth generation now is about to take over, and that's very sort of, I wouldn't say comforting, but it's yeah, it's a good sign for us that people thinking a little bit, ahead, and not just a year or two. It's about the generation ahead of what this world, or what the next sort of not just the next trend for work boots or safety shoes, or what is required in a construction side, what will be yeah what the trends are, and on a long term basis.
Now, talking about trends, I mean, if
Mm,
I'm listening to this and I'm working as a chippy or a sparky or painter or someone like that, and I'm looking at, I guess I haven't really thought about what sort of boots to get. Like, take us through the thinking, or what particular boot would be better in a certain environment, coming from that sort of side of things.
in those traits, I think you'd say have a certain expectation, and these expectations are just getting broken down on the individual. You say, hey, um, these boots are just too heavy. I have a sore back, like someone, basically a persona with issues, right? Or wide feet. For the average sort of mainstream size boot, that some features don't fit in there, and people just have to get in there because this is sort of what's being worn in that industry. And it's sort of a, well, I do it and I know it's not a main issue, but I would probably wear something else. Or there's different materials, like everyone loves leather. I love leather, but I mentioned it briefly before. There is also a process of putting a shoe together, and then having leather in the way it is actually as the upper on a shoe or a boot. And a leather boot can be also heavy, and a lot of clients come back and say, hey, look, is there something lighter? And from a material point of view, there are a lot of synthetic materials now. They can be also vegan friendly, and have some features more breathable with Gore-Tex. There's a myriad of combinations that sort of allows us to tailor a certain shoe or a boot to someone's specific needs. Again, whether someone needs to have something lighter or more waterproof, or whatever it is. And these are the requirements. They're getting more specific. It's not that broad anymore. That someone walks in and say, hey, well, I work in construction. Yeah, that's what they always all say. And then you have to break down and say, okay, where? Is it more indoors, outdoors? Are you on the roof? Are you? And this sort of gives us then a good idea to sort of go into the range and say, hey, look at this. Yeah. So, well, I don't like it. Okay. Style is obviously the last barrier. It's probably the first barrier for the ladies, but the last barrier for men. It's all the function over form. I think in the construction and trade department. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I love that, and I think you raise a good point. I mean, roofers out there that are listening to this, like,
Hmm.
some of them wear volleys because you can't practically walk on roof sheets,
Uh,
and
no.
you can't fit a size 14 boot. You can't fit a size 14 boot in between roof sheets. So
uh,
what else are you meant to do? So you can see why. Whereas you guys have got that low cut, sort of softer fitting boot.
yeah. No, it's quite interesting that you mentioned it. I think Dunlop Wallis, they missed out big time, because you hear it so many times, and I think there are lots of roofers out there. Again, whether they're doing the right thing from a compliance point of view, but the Wallis have a very good reputation out there, and that's what we hear a lot. And that's obviously for us to make sure we can try, or we can find an equivalent sort of shoe or boot that has the same or similar features, that someone walks out and say, hey, I'm completely happy. And for us, really, as the sizes we have, I mean, everyone's still involved in retail, because it's so important for us to take that first hand feedback of someone comes in, we help him out. And the best reward is if someone walks in after a year's time and say, hey, these boots have done a great job, I'm back again. And this is sort of what makes my day. Yeah.
Well, that's right, and like, one of the things tradies, they don't like change. Like, they don't like changing their boots. There's nothing worse than
Yeah.
you see them, brand new set of boots. What do they, step on them and cover them up
Yeah.
a little bit. Like, so they like, if you're going to be in a boot or a shoe or any form of PPE, like, and it's sort of not really disposable, then that's, I guess, the difference in finding something that you're going to be comfortable in for the next 2 years or even 3 years.
Now, you raised a very good point. What we see a lot, and this is or was difficult for us in the first place, but also it's that reward that you get over time, that um, trade. But I think also looking at the culture here in Australia, people are loyal. They're loyal to their brands, and this is just a great sort of attitude to have, I guess. It took us a while to really to understand that you can't just come in and, let's say, it wasn't even our strategy to say, hey, we knock $50 off just for you to try our sort of boots, right? It's really a process that you have to engage with your clients and really find out what they want. And then having someone who wears whatever brand is out there for 10 or 20 years, we hit it a lot and say, hey guys, I've seen that shoe, or my mate's wearing that to work. And then basically having someone transitioning over to your brand, this is just unbelievable, because we know how brand loyal people are here. Again, whether it's towards Australian brands, and then you have to also drill down, well, where do these brands manufacture, etc., etc. But the loyalty is something that's really important here, and we're trying to work with that, because again, what I've just told you about our history, this is exactly where we come from and what we're trying to expand on, and very important.
Do you have like a particular boot that everyone sort of goes crazy for, or it's sort of your number one seller?
Yeah, it is, and it's not so much the boot itself; it's about a a special feature, and the feature is called BOA. It is basically a lacing mechanism that's been around since, I think, 10 years or so. It comes out of skiing, snowboarding. It's pretty much a stainless steel um, lace that is sort of getting twined up on a wheel. Yeah. So what you actually gain with that is that you don't have any laces that wear out. Plus, you can actually engage and disengage the lacing system that fast that it sort of is at least on par with the side zip. And this is a technology where we thought, again, knowing about the loyalty and also about the that fear of change that is probably ingrained in India's, or in mine now as well. I'm far more risk averse than I was before. Anyway, and but we saw, oh, should we give that a try? It's very fancy, it's all new, but this technology is replacing like all our boots that have a traditional lace, and it's so popular because of, again, you're getting quickly in and out of your boots, and it's pretty much undestroy, or you can't destroy that. Yeah, if we have someone that walks in and it's that set on, listen, I want a carbon copy ideally of my side zip boot, then you say, actually, have you tried that already? And then, well, some can be converted, others can't, but you'll be definitely one of those that come back after and say, I don't want anything else again. It lasts and it's convenient, far more convenient than a side zip boot. And that's just our learning. It's not something that I would like to say. It's something that we've observed, and that's what we continue to offer. And yeah.
No, look, I love it. I know the technology that you're talking about. Coming from that snowboarding environment, like you said, where it's that quick turnbuckle, you can
Yeah.
strap yourself in. Because and I wasn't aware of that in work boots at all, because as you know, like you see people all the time where they put the boots on and they've gone to the, like with they still have laces, but they have a zipper on the side, so the boot stretches, and over time, like it's not really doing much, particularly if you're wearing a high cut boot, where the reason you wear those is so you don't roll your ankle and things like that. So,
Yep.
like you said, for adding that extra layer of security and safety, definitely smart technology, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, and just looking at Elton in Germany, they're pumping out so much stuff where we always need to say, hey, let's take one step back. Let's see what really makes sense. What could work here with the people, with their in their specific industries, in their jobs. And it's in a way we were spoiled, because the range is just unbelievable. But we also see you need to be careful in the amount of features you just throw out there, because people are getting overwhelmed, and at the end of the day, we want people to understand where are the benefits, and how can this boot or shoe help me in a way, and not just sort of add feature 1 till 10. It's all fancy, you pay a premium, but we're not quite sure if that shoe actually is right for the Chippy here or Sparky there. Is it really? And that's our aim, to have something not tailor made, but tailored for that specific industry and then for that specific job he or she's in.
Yeah, look, I love it. And I think until you and I have spoken here today in Melbourne, I would never have actually thought of a particular style of work boot for an actual specific trade.
Yeah.
I would have just, before now thought this is what you either wear a high cut or a low cut, and that's
Yeah.
it.
And there's another important point and also an observation we have initially, and that was probably also a reason why things sort of haven't taken off as they could have, is that all these boots, they come with a premium. They're made overseas, so where the hourly wage is a little bit more than probably somewhere in Asia, where most of the stuff is getting manufactured these days. And I don't have generally a problem with that. But a lot of people also come back and say, look, I want something that lasts, but I didn't want to necessarily spend more than $200, because that was sort of the price threshold, the peak, where I say, hey, um, the quality leather boot that you'd get in a PPE shop, that was around $200, and people had that in mind. Actually, I don't want to spend more, because my employer just gives me 150 back or 200 back, and I don't want to necessarily spend money out of my own pocket, la la la. But we see a shift in the market to like rather spend decent money on a quality boot and then come back after a year or 1.5 years and don't do the exercise twice a year. That sort of equation in our clients' minds has changed also, and they're prepared to spend more for features they understand. And that's the a main observation, that initially we had to convince a lot of people, and we had actually also people say, "Now look, it's just too expensive, and I can't see it." And it's a change. It's a shift in a lot of people's mindset, that they want to have something that lasts.
Yeah,
And
it comes back to that German
yeah,
quality, I think. And not only that, I mean, it's just so refreshing to see someone being able to, I guess, come to Australia and think of a pretty cool concept and getting it out there and being independent and taking sort of one workplace or one company at a time and growing and just building up that loyalty through brand awareness.
yeah, no, absolutely, and that's why we also love to team up with you, Aaron. I mean, we looked at your brands on Build Hatch, and it's pretty much the same concept. We never intend to you know ship out and sell pallets of stuff. It's really about that you can't please everyone, whether it's from the wallet point of view or from the design point of view or loyalty, right? So now, whatever happens, I will never steer off my current work boots. We're okay with that, and yeah, we don't want that, but we would like other people to appreciate our products. And again, we know that there's a limited amount out there, and we hope, and we see also on BuildEdge, it's the same sort of principle, that there are local manufacturers say, hey, we've built something that has a price point, and we think it's a good product, and we know we can't compete with Bunnings and Mitre 10 or whatever, but let's give it a chance. And you just need the right platform, because there are people out there, 100%.
Yeah, that's right. And I often refer to, Build Hatch as being the IGA supermarket of the industry. And it's just, there's a reason being, like, obviously competing against the big guns is terribly tough, but there are people out there who are prepared to make a choice, a conscious decision to support independent brands and buy locally to support businesses. And this is just another way of doing it. And I think, listening to the story, I'm sure there'll be people who listen to this as well and think, well, I didn't even think about doing up my boots like a snowboard boot or vice versa, like just little things like that they wouldn't normally hear about.
Yeah, no, look, and I really can encourage. Again, I can't recall the name of the brands you actually have up on the Build Hatch marketplace. We were there at the start when we thought, okay, let's dream big, let's approach RCA and the big wholesale or big wholesalers. Of course, they don't want to deal with you. You have a product that no one knows, the brand no one knows, and it's worthwhile to have a long breath and just stick to it. If you know that you have a great product and you get sort of your first sort of you get feedback from whether it's your mates or your family, even though they just want to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, keep going. It's worthwhile. Keep doing what you're doing, and the longer you stay in there, and if the trajectory is not that steep, but if it's gradually up, that's what you want, and you just have to hang in there and do it.
Yeah, look, so inspiring, and I love it. And these are the stories that I love talking to people, and having on the show like we do every week, and talking to you. So as you mentioned, we're going to have you guys on the platform, and so if there's people listening to this and they're running a subby crew, or they've got 10 people, whether it's 20 or 30 or just a couple, go onto the Build Hatch marketplace and buy, which will support independent brands such as StitchKraft. Now, just on that, is there any, like, if I'm listening to this and I've got 10, 15 employees, and I think, well, this is good, we can get everyone stitched up for a new winter workwear brand or new size. Have you got any limits?
No limits. No, it's almost like a Turkish bazaar. You can barter as hard as you can. No, I'm just making that up. But no, look, we know where we are, where we're coming from, and there's always how can I put it? There's individual arrangements for everyone who knocks on our door. We're happy to support wherever we can.
All right, terrific. Well, Armin from StitchKraft, thank you for coming on to Build Hatch. It's been really special to sit down here and have a chat with you. So thanks for coming on the show.
No, thanks, Aaron. My pleasure.
Well, that was another Build Hatch episode with Armin from StitchKraft Workwear. And like I said, you can now go onto Build Hatch's website, which is buildhatch.com, and buy a pair of his leading work boots. As usual, if you know a hard worker having a go in the construction space for a building-related business, person or product, or you love what they are doing or selling, then please do get into contact with us, and we'll be more than happy to tell their story and get behind their goods or services on the Build Hatch marketplace. Our team are busy rolling out independent sellers on buildhatch.com as we speak, so stay tuned for some more exciting products as they onboard. As usual, please check out our Instagram and other socials, where you'll be able to learn more about our guests and some of the features of the work that we talk about. Have a great week, and you'll hear me again on the airwaves next week. Thanks for listening to another episode of Build Hatch.
You have experienced a Build Hatch developed production.